One photo, two kings, and a city built on blood. Trust. Trust no one.
A struggling photojournalist snaps the wrong moment on the Las Vegas Strip. Two Mafia kings exchanging power. Now, trapped between lions and snakes, he must choose prey or pride. In a city where loyalty is bought and blood is currency, the Las Vegas Strip, one man's like a living thing, the most dangerous weapon of all. Lights flashing, tourists laughing, dealers calling bets over the thunder of slot machines. I'd been chasing this chaos for months, lens in hand, trying to capture the city's underbelly for a photo essay that might finally get me noticed. But tonight felt different, colder. My name is Daniel Reyes, 27, freelance photojournalist, scraping by on magazine gigs and the occasional wedding shoot. Rent was overdue again, and my editor hadn't called back in weeks. So when I spotted the black SUV idling across from the Bellagio fountains, its tinted windows swallowing the neon, instinct told me to lift my camera. The first photo showed nothing unusual. The second caught a suited man stepping out, scanning the crowd with predator's eyes. The third froze the moment a second SUV slid in behind, blocking traffic like it owned the street. The Strip buzzed on around them, oblivious. I knew better. My dad drove cabs in this city for 30 years. He'd tell me, Vegas shines bright so you don't notice the shadows. The shadows were here, moving with purpose. I slipped into the mouth of an alley, crouched low, clicking the shutter. Through the lens I caught the exchange. A briefcase, a handshake, tension so thick it seemed to bend the air. Two men faced each other, one younger, sharp suit, hair slicked back like an old-school crooner. The other older, heavier, face carved with lines of authority. Their bodyguards stood like statues, eyes hidden by mirrored glasses even though it was close to midnight. A sudden shove broke the illusion of civility. The younger man barked something I couldn't hear, pointing at the briefcase. Guns flashed under streetlight glare. I snapped 3-4 shots before the older man raised a hand, forcing the calm back into place. And then, his eyes found me. Not through the lens. Not by chance, he saw me. A tourist wouldn't have noticed, but his gaze locked on mine across the blur of headlights and neon. Cold recognition. I dropped back behind the dumpster, heart hammering. My fingers shook as I checked the camera screen. Proof. Evidence of something I didn't fully understand but knew was dangerous. Hey. The voice came from the mouth of the alley. Not harsh, not loud, just certain. A man in a tailored jacket stepped into view, his frame blocking the glow of the Strip behind him. He wasn't one of the two bosses, but close. Muscle. Clean cut. The kind that blends in until it's too late. Nice camera, he said, taking a step closer. I clutched it to my chest. I'm just working, freelance. He smiled, though it didn't touch his eyes. Then you know some pictures are worth more than others. Behind him, the SUVs were already pulling away, engines purring like predators satisfied with their hunt. The briefcase was gone, the street returning to normal as though nothing had happened. But I knew better, and so did he. Delete the shots, the man said, still calm. Too calm. Now, I swallowed hard, mind racing. If I deleted them, I had nothing. No story, no paycheck. If I didn't, I had something else. Trouble. Look, I said, forcing a shaky laugh. I'm not a cop. Just a guy with bills to pay. That's the problem. His eyes flicked to the camera strap wound tight around my wrist. Bills make men desperate. Desperate men make mistakes. A second figure appeared at the alley's end. Another suit. Another shadow. Blocking my exit. I glanced at the wall to my left. Graffiti, peeling plaster, a fire escape ladder just out of reach. Maybe if I jumped, the first man noticed my glance, smirked. Don't. I froze. For a moment, only the Strip's noise filled the silence. Horns, laughter, the faint echo of a street musician's trumpet. Then he stepped closer, voice dropping to a whisper meant only for me. You just saw business between families. You weren't supposed to. That makes you part of it. My throat went dry. I don't want to be part of anything. Too late. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a sleek black card with nothing but a silver crest embossed on it. A lion's head, roaring. He tucked it into my shirt pocket, patting it twice. Deliberate. Someone will call you. Answer. And just like that, he turned, walking back toward the strip as if nothing had happened. The second man melted into the crowd. I stood alone in the alley, the roar of Vegas suddenly deafening, my camera heavy in my hands. On the screen, the frozen image stared back. 2 Mafia families, power-shifting hands beneath neon lights. And now I was in the frame, whether I wanted to be or not. The card in my pocket felt heavier than my camera. I walked the strip like a ghost, neon lights blazing above me, laughter spilling from casinos, the smell of fried food and perfume thick in the air. Everyone else was chasing luck. Me? I was carrying evidence and a warning. Back at my apartment, 1-bedroom, 3rd floor, off Fremont Street, I locked the door twice. The place smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. My desk sagged under stacks of unpaid bills and scratched film canisters. I dropped the camera there, pulled the memory card, and slid it into my laptop. Click. The photos loaded, each sharper than I remembered. The handshake, the briefcase, the tension that bled through every frame, and their faces, clear, unmasked, staring into my lens. Proof of something bigger than I had any business touching. Then the last shot. Him, the older man. His gaze fixed directly at me, ice cold like he already owned me. I leaned back in my chair, pulse hammering. Any magazine would kill for this. Front page exposé, big payday. But the card in my pocket whispered otherwise. Someone will call you. Answer. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Midnight sharp. For a second, I thought about letting it ring out. Pretend I'd never seen the alley, never clicked the shutter. But curiosity, no fear, made me swipe. Mr. Reyes. The voice was smooth, accented faintly. East Coast, maybe. Not a question, a statement. Who is this? You don't need names yet. What matters is what you saw tonight, and what you did with it. I glanced at the laptop screen. The photos still open. Faces frozen mid-breath. I'm just a photographer. You're a witness. The voice cut me off. And witnesses are valuable. Or dangerous. My throat tightened. I didn't call the cops. A pause. Then a quiet chuckle. Good. That means you're smart. Smarter than most. The line went silent for a beat, filled only by my own ragged breathing. You have a choice, Mr. Reyes. Destroy the pictures and you'll hear nothing more. Or keep them and meet the family. I swallowed hard. Why me? Because you were there. Because fate put a camera in your hands when the wrong men shook hands. And because once the lens sees the truth, it can't be unseen. The line clicked dead. I sat frozen, phone slick in my palm. My laptop screen glowed in the dark, those faces staring back, daring me. Delete and maybe I'd sleep again. Keep them and step into something I couldn't escape. My hand hovered over the keyboard. Delete, just one button, but I didn't press it. Instead, I pulled the card from my pocket. The lion's crest gleamed silver in the lamplight, teeth bared in eternal roar. On the back, a single address scrawled in black ink, Warehouse District. Tomorrow, midnight. Sleep was impossible. I lay on my lumpy couch, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening for footsteps in the hall. Every creak made me think of suited men, mirrored sunglasses, voices too calm to argue with. By dawn, I'd made my choice, not because I was brave, not because I was reckless, but because something in that alley had shifted my world. And because once you see the shadows of Las Vegas, you can't go back to the lights. The lion was waiting. The Warehouse District sat on the edge of Vegas like a forgotten scar. Rows of corrugated steel, cracked asphalt, the smell of oil and dust clinging to the air. By day, it looked abandoned. By midnight, it was alive. Engines idled in the dark. Cigarette tips glowed like fireflies. I parked 2 blocks away, camera slung over my shoulder, heart pounding loud enough to drown the night. The address on the card led me to a hulking building, its windows blacked out, a single light burning over the side door. 2 men waited there. Suits again, one tall and thin, the other broad, hands clasped in front like he was already holding my fate. You're Reyes? The broad one asked. I nodded. Phone. I hesitated, then handed it over. He slipped it into his jacket without checking. The thin one opened the door, gestured me in. Inside smelled of leather, smoke, and gun oil. The cavernous space had been transformed, half office, half fortress. A long wooden table stood in the center, surrounded by men in suits, their eyes sharp, their silence heavier than words. At the far end sat the man from my photo, the older one, lines carved deep into his face, silver streaking his hair, presence filling the room like gravity. "Mr. Reyes," he said, voice low but carrying. "Sit," I obeyed. My chair scraped the concrete, the sound loud in the hush. He tapped the table, and one of the guards slid my laptop across to him. Open. My photos filled the screen. He flipped through them like a priest handling scripture. No flinch when his own face appeared. No surprise, just certainty. "You're talented," he said finally. "Too talented for wedding gigs." "I didn't mean, you meant to survive." He cut me off, leaning back. "The camera makes you dangerous, Mr. Reyes. You've captured moments worth wars." The room stirred. A younger man at his right, sharper, restless, leaned forward. "Why not end it now? One bullet, no risk." The older man raised a hand and silence snapped back into place. His eyes locked on mine. "Because a man who sees the truth and lives is worth more than a man who dies for it." "You understand?" I nodded, throat dry. "Good." He closed the laptop. "You'll work for us now." The words hit like a punch. "Work? Photos, discretion, eyes where ours cannot go." His tone hardened. "In return, your debts disappear. Your rent, your bills, your future, handled. Protection included. And if I say no?" The younger man smiled coldly. "Then you disappear." The older man ignored him, gaze still locked on me. "You have until tomorrow night to decide. But know this. Once you've seen the lion, you belong to the pride." He slid the laptop back across the table. My camera, too, untouched. The meeting ended without ceremony. Guards ushered me out into the cool desert night. The door slammed behind me with the finality of a cell door. I stood in the empty lot, laptop under my arm, head spinning. The strip glowed faintly in the distance, but it felt a world away. I had proof. I had an offer. I had a deadline. And for the first time in my life, I understood what my dad meant when he said Vegas wasn't built on luck. It was built on lions. And I'd just been marked as prey or kin. I barely slept after the warehouse meeting. Every creak in my apartment sounded like footsteps on the stairs. Every headlight sweeping across my blinds felt like a signal. By morning, I'd convinced myself to walk away. Delete the photos, vanish back into wedding gigs and cheap rent. Pretend the lion never saw me. But by noon, reality came knocking. Literally. 3 envelopes slid under my door, thick and heavy. One marked rent. Another, utilities. The third, medical debt with my mother's name on it. I hadn't told anyone about that bill. When I opened them, they weren't bills anymore. They were receipts. Paid in full. The lion had already made his move. By evening, I found myself drifting down the strip, camera bag strapped to my back, as if habit could erase what I was now part of. Tourists posed by fountains, bachelorettes shrieked in feather boas, gamblers fed slot machines with dead eyes. Vegas was alive, but I saw its veins now, money, muscle, secrets. That's when the first shot cracked the night. Screams scattered the crowd outside a casino. People hitting the pavement as glass shattered overhead. My instincts kicked in before fear could. I ducked behind a planter, camera in hand, lens snapping toward the chaos. 2 SUVs, both black, screeched to a halt in front of the casino. Men poured out, suits, guns drawn, faces carved from stone. Across the street, another crew answered in kind. Muzzle flashes lit the strip like fireworks. I kept shooting. One man fell, clutching his chest. Another staggered back, blood blooming across his sleeve. A tourist screamed beside me, scrambling for cover. The strip, usually a playground, had turned into a war zone. And then, through the chaos, I saw him. The older man from the warehouse, calm in the storm, walking forward as if bullets bent around him. His guards shielded him, returning fire with terrifying precision. He didn't flinch, didn't stumble, didn't so much as raise his voice. Our eyes met again. For 1 second, the world blurred. The neon, the gunfire, the screams. Just me, the camera, and him. Then a hand grabbed my collar, yanking me backward into an alley. My camera nearly slipped from my grip. I twisted, ready to fight, but froze when I saw who it was. The younger man, the restless one from his right hand at the table. His smile was sharp as broken glass. "Congratulations, Reyes," he hissed over the gunfire. "Now you're really in it." Behind him, the strip burned with light and blood, and I realized there was no walking away now. Not from the lion, not from his war, because Vegas doesn't let you watch from the sidelines. It drags you into the fight. The younger man shoved me deeper into the alley, away from the staccato rhythm of gunfire echoing off glass. My back hit the wall, breath knocked out of me. He leaned in close, eyes burning. "You think this city runs on luck?" he sneered. "It runs on blood, and now yours is in the pot." Before I could answer, a black SUV screeched to a stop at the mouth of the alley. Doors flung open, 2 more suits jumped out. They didn't fire, didn't speak, just motioned for me to get in. The younger man gave a final shove. "Go on, photographer. Time to see where you really stand." I stumbled toward the car, camera still clutched in a death grip. They yanked me inside, door slamming, engine roaring. The strip blurred past as we tore into the desert night, neon shrinking behind us. Minutes stretched like hours before we stopped outside a gated estate. High walls, cameras at every corner, guards with rifles pacing like restless wolves. They marched me through iron gates into a mansion that smelled of leather and power. And there he was. The lion himself, seated in a high-backed chair, jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms inked with faded scars. Calm again, as if he hadn't just walked through a battlefield. "Mr. Reyes," he said, voice low, steady. "I told you. Once you see, you belong." I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. Finally, the words scraped out. "I didn't ask for this." "No one does." He leaned forward, eyes sharp. "But the camera made your choice for you. You can work for me, record what I need, where I need, or you can walk away tonight and pray my enemies don't reach you first." Silence hung heavy. Behind him, the younger man lounged against the wall, smirking like he already knew the outcome. "What if I refuse both?" I asked. The lion's smile was thin, dangerous. "Then the desert keeps its secrets, and you'll be one of them." The weight of the words crushed me. My debts cleared, my name already marked, my photos a loaded gun pointed at both of us. He stood, towering, presence filling the room. "You have until dawn. Decide, Mr. Reyes. Are you prey or pride?" The guards led me to a guest room with barred windows and a locked door. Alone, I set my camera on the bed, hands shaking. Through the glass, I saw the desert stretching endless, cold stars burning overhead, and for the first time, I wondered if I'd ever see the strip again, or if I'd already been swallowed whole by the lion's world. The guest room smelled of dust and polished wood, the kind of space no one really lived in, a cage disguised as hospitality. I paced until my legs ached, replaying the lion's words over and over, prey or pride. At some point, I collapsed onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, my camera balanced on my chest like a heartbeat I couldn't silence. Sleep came in fractured pieces, flashes of muzzle fire, the older man's cold gaze, the younger one's smile, sharp as broken glass. A knock woke me just as dawn bruised the horizon. The door opened without waiting for my answer. It was him, the lion, dressed in a dark vest, no jacket, his hair slicked back but his eyes shadowed from fatigue or calculation. "Walk with me," he said. Not a request. Guards flanked the hall as he led me outside. The desert air was cold, biting. From the balcony, I saw the estate spread wide, fountains, hedges carved like soldiers, armed men pacing in measured routes. Beyond the walls, nothing but sand and sky. "This city," he began, voice steady, "was built by men who understood control. Casinos, unions, construction, each brick laid by a hand that answered to someone like me." He turned, eyes pinning me. "But control slips. Rivals grow bold. Families forget their place. Last night was proof." I swallowed. "So where do I fit?" "You hold a mirror." His gaze flicked to my camera strap. "People lie, men lie. The camera doesn't. That makes you dangerous. Or indispensable." Silence stretched. My heart thudded like it wanted out. You want me to spy, I said finally. He smiled thin, approving. I want you to see, and show me what others would hide. And if I say no, the smile vanished. Then the desert claims another nameless soul. Vegas will forget you by sunset. The choice pressed heavy. Work for him, and I'd be complicit in whatever empire he ruled. Refuse, and I'd vanish into sand and silence. Why me? I asked, desperate for anything. You must have men already, loyal, trained. He studied me for a long moment. Because loyalty is bought. Fear is temporary. But a man who survives on truth, that man sees differently. The younger one appeared on the balcony then, sliding a cigarette between his lips, smirk curling. Tick-tock, Reyes, sun's up. What'll it be? I looked past them, out to the desert where the sky burned gold. My chest felt tight, my lungs full of sand. Finally I spoke, the words tasting like surrender, or survival. I'll work. The lion's smile returned, small but sharp. He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder, warm and final. Welcome to the pride. Behind him, the younger man exhaled smoke, grin widening. And just like that, the strip's shadows weren't just something I photographed. They were mine now. By nightfall, the mansion hummed with quiet purpose. Guards moved in tighter patterns, radios buzzing low. The lion's world was never still. Dinner was served in a vaulted hall, though I barely touched it. Every clink of silverware reminded me I was eating with men who'd kill without hesitation. Afterward, he summoned me to his study. The room smelled of whiskey and old leather. Maps of Vegas lined the walls, blocks divided, marked in red and black. Territories, battle lines. You're ready for your first task, he said, pouring 2 glasses but handing me none. He drank alone. I sat, pulse quickening. What do you want me to do? He slid a folder across the desk. Inside, photographs of another man, sharp suit, blonde hair slicked back, always surrounded by muscle. The name scrawled beneath read Adrian Costa. Rival family? I asked. His lips curved faintly. Rival empire. Costa thinks the strip belongs to him. He forgets who built it. I flipped through the photos. Costa laughing with casino owners. Costa shaking hands with city officials. Costa standing in front of a private jet, smug as sin. You'll attend his club tomorrow night, the lion continued. A place called Solaris. Exclusive. Cameras forbidden. Phones confiscated at the door. But not yours. My chest tightened. You want me to photograph him? I want you to capture the truth. Who he meets, what he trades. Evidence he can't deny when the time comes. And if they catch me? The younger man lounged in the corner, tossing a knife between his hands. He grinned. Then we see how fast you can run. The lion ignored him. His gaze stayed on me. Heavy, inevitable. You asked why you? He said softly. Because you already see the shadows. Tomorrow, you prove if you can survive them. The folder snapped shut between us. The sound final. That night, back in the guest room, I spread the photos across the bed. Adrian Costa's face stared back at me from every angle. Smooth, confident, dangerous. My camera sat on the nightstand, lens catching the faint glow of the lamp. My hand hovered over it, trembling. First assignment. First step into a world I had no way out of. Through the barred window, the strip's glow burned faint on the horizon. Neon, constant and cruel. And I realized, tomorrow I wouldn't just be taking pictures. I'd be taking sides. The Solaris Club didn't advertise. No neon, no signs. Just a black door tucked between 2 luxury boutiques on the strip. A doorman in a tailored suit scanned the line with bored eyes until mine met his. I handed over the invitation. No name, only the lion's crest embossed in silver. His brow flickered, just a fraction, before he waved me inside. They took my phone, patted me down. My camera was hidden in a false compartment of my bag, lens snug against fabric. My palms sweated as they rifled through it. But the guard missed the seam. When he shoved it back, my knees nearly buckled with relief. Inside was another world. Velvet walls, chandeliers dripping crystal, music low and sultry. Dealers ran private tables in shadowed alcoves while women in sequined gowns drifted between high-roller booths. Everyone here had money, power, or protection. I slipped into the crowd, keeping my movements casual, eyes sharp. Then I saw him, Adrian Costa. The photos hadn't done him justice. He was taller, sharper, his suit cut to perfection, hair gleaming under the chandelier's light. He laughed with two men I didn't recognize, one sliding a briefcase beneath the table. I angled my bag, clicked the shutter once. The sound was lost in the bass thrum of the music. The photo preview glowed briefly on the small screen. Costa's smirk frozen mid-laugh, the briefcase half hidden. Proof. I moved slowly, orbiting the room, snapping shots in stolen fragments. Costa with a city councilman, Costa whispering with a casino boss, Costa slipping a wad of cash into a dealer's hand. Each frame a puzzle piece, but the air shifted. I felt it before I saw it. A hand landed heavy on my shoulder. I turned. A guard, eyes cold, grip firm. Bag, he said flatly. My pulse spiked. Problem? Random check. I forced a smile, but sweat slid down my spine. If he found the camera, I was finished. Before I could answer, Costa's voice cut through the music. Smooth. Commanding. Bring him here. The guard yanked me forward. My stomach dropped as I was dragged to Costa's table. He leaned back in his chair, glass of whiskey in hand, eyes gleaming like a predator, amused by cornered prey. And who, he drawled, gaze sliding over me, is our new photographer friend? The room seemed to shrink, every pair of eyes on me. My fingers itched toward my bag, but I knew better. I forced a breath, steadying myself, because the lion had sent me into the den of another beast. And I wasn't sure which one would tear me apart first. Adrian Costa's stare pinned me in place, his smile sharp enough to cut glass. He sipped his whiskey, eyes never leaving mine, while the guard dropped my bag onto the table with a thud. A camera, Costa mused. In a club where cameras are forbidden. Either you're very stupid, he nodded to the guard who unzipped the bag, or very brave. My pulse thundered as the guard's hand moved closer to the false compartment. Any second now. Wait, Costa lifted a finger. The guard froze. Let's not ruin the surprise just yet. He leaned forward, his cologne thick with spice and smoke. Tell me, photographer, who sent you? TMZ, FBI, or... His grin widened. Was it the lion? The word hit like a punch. He knew. I shoot for private clients, I stammered. Weddings, exposés, whatever pays rent. Costa chuckled, low and dangerous. Everyone in Vegas shoots for someone. The only question is, who owns the negatives? The guard's hand found the seam. My stomach twisted. He tugged, the hidden flap peeling back. Click. The compartment popped open. Metal glinted. My camera slid into view. Costa's smile thinned. He gestured lazily. The guard yanked it free, slammed it onto the table. Costa picked it up, turning it in his hands like a toy. He pressed the playback button. The last photo lit the screen. Costa, mid-laugh, briefcase in frame. His face clear as day. Silence fell over the table. Costa's gaze sharpened, the warmth gone from his eyes. You've been busy, I swallowed hard. My chest felt like it might cave in. Lucky for you, Costa said at last. I like busy men, especially when they're wasted on the wrong employer. He leaned back, tossing the camera to the guard. Tell your lion I said hello, and tell him Vegas isn't big enough for two kings. The guard shoved the bag back into my arms and hauled me to my feet. Costa's grin returned, wolfish. Run along, photographer. But remember, lions may roar, but snakes strike silent. I stumbled out into the neon night, lungs burning, camera heavy with proof that might cost me my life. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just caught between families. I was caught between predators, and both had already marked me as theirs. By the time I reached the street, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely keep the camera strap from slipping off my shoulder. The strip's neon glared too bright, the crowd too loud. Every sound felt like a warning. I ducked into a taxi, barked my address, and sat rigid the entire ride. When I reached my apartment, the front door was already unlocked. Inside, the lion was waiting. He stood by my window, hands clasped behind his back, suit immaculate, presence filling the tiny room. 2 guards lingered in the hallway outside like shadows. You went to Solaris, he said, no question in his tone. I shut the door slowly, heart hammering. You told me to. I told you to photograph Adrian Costa, not to get caught. I dropped the bag onto the table, the camera clattering out. He knew, okay? He knew about you. He knew about me. The lion turned, eyes colder than I'd ever seen. Show me. I hesitated, then handed him the camera. He flipped through the images, face unreadable until he reached the last one. Costa staring directly into the lens, briefcase half hidden. That's it, I said. He let me walk out. Let you? Yes, I rubbed my temples. He wanted me to tell you something. Vegas isn't big enough for two kings. A flicker of something, anger, amusement, both, passed over the lion's face. He handed the camera to a guard, who slipped out silently. You've just confirmed what I suspected, he said at last. Costa has a leak inside my house. He knew about you before you even stepped into Solaris. My stomach dropped. A leak? Someone feeding him names, movements, assignments. The lion's voice hardened. I've built an empire on loyalty. Betrayal demands a price. He stepped closer, shadows deepening the angles of his face. Tonight, you're not just my photographer. You're my bait. My throat went dry. Bait? I'll leak a meeting. False location, false time. You'll be there with your camera. Whoever shows up to tip Costa off will reveal themselves. And if it's a trap? He smiled thin, dangerous. Then you'll be standing next to the only man in Vegas who can pull you out alive. I stared at him, caught between terror and a strange electric pull. The strip had felt dangerous before, but this was stepping willingly into the jaws. You trust me that much? I asked quietly. No, he said. I trust the camera. Outside, sirens wailed faintly, carried on the desert wind. Inside, the lion's plan began to take shape, and I realized there was no turning back. I wasn't just recording the story anymore. I was part of it. The lion's men worked fast. By midnight, word was already on the street. A secret sit-down in an abandoned hotel off Sahara Avenue. A truce talk, they said. Neutral ground. No guns, but it was all theater. My role was simple. Show up with the camera, look nervous, make sure eyes were on me. The lion would watch from the shadows, waiting for the traitor to reveal themselves. The hotel loomed like a skeleton against the desert sky, its windows broken, its sign half dead. I stepped inside, boots crunching over shattered glass. My camera strap dug into my shoulder, weight heavier than usual. Every sound echoed. Dripping pipes, wind whistling through cracks. And footsteps. Too many. Figures emerged from the dark, suits blending with shadow. Some I recognized from the lion's house, others I didn't, all of them watching me. I raised the camera, snapping a photo to mask my fear. Flash lit their faces for a heartbeat, then darkness swallowed us again. You're late. The voice came from the stairwell. The younger man, the restless one, the lion's right hand, descended slowly, cigarette glowing between his fingers. His smirk hadn't changed. Boss trusts you a lot, he said, exhaling smoke. Too much, maybe. He circled me like a shark, eyes sharp. You ever wonder why he picked you? Out of all the nobodies on the strip? I swallowed, grip tightening on the camera. Maybe he saw something. Or maybe... He leaned close, whispering, he needed a scapegoat. The words slid under my skin like ice. Before I could answer, headlights slashed across the broken lobby. Another convoy pulled up outside, black SUVs, engines idling low. Men spilled out, guns visible this time. Not the lion's men. Costa's, my chest seized. This wasn't a test. This was a handoff. The younger man flicked his cigarette to the floor, crushing it under polished leather. Sorry, Reyes. Wrong pride. Costa stepped through the doorway, smile gleaming under the ruined chandelier. Mr. Photographer, we meet again. The younger man straightened at his side, no longer restless. Calm. Assured. Like he'd been here all along. And in that instant, the truth slammed into me. The leak wasn't hiding in the lion's house. The leak was the lion's own air. I barely had time to raise the camera before the room exploded in gunfire. The lobby lit up with muzzle flashes, each shot cracking like lightning in a storm. I dove behind a toppled slot machine, shards of glass biting into my palms. The camera clutched to my chest felt like the only shield I had. Costa's men fanned out across the ruined lobby, spraying bullets into shadows. The younger man, no, the traitor, barked orders, his voice slicing through the chaos. "Push them back! The lion's not coming!" But he was wrong. A roar of engines outside. Then the crash of doors kicked open. The lion's men surged in from both sides, rifles spitting fire. The crossfire turned the hotel into a death trap. Shattered tiles, ricochets screaming off concrete, smoke choking the air. I crawled along the floor, snapping shots blindly. Every frame caught fragments of truth. Costa's grin twisted into rage, the traitor's smirk as he fired point blank, the lion's crest flashing on armored vests as his men stormed through. Then the lion himself entered, calm, unshaken, moving through the storm as if the bullets bent away from him. His eyes locked not on Costa, not on the battlefield, on the traitor at his side. "Luca," he said, voice carrying even through the gunfire. "My own blood." The younger man, Luca, laughed, bitter and sharp. "Your pride is old, dying. Costa offers the future." The lion raised a pistol, steady. "Then you've chosen to be prey." Luca fired first. The shot tore through the air, but the lion was faster. 2 gunshots cracked almost as one. Luca staggered, eyes wide, smoke curling from his gun. He collapsed onto the broken tiles, lifeless, cigarette still smoldering at his side. For a moment, everything froze. Costa's men faltered, momentum broken. The lion's voice rang out, "End it." His men obeyed with brutal precision. The firefight lasted minutes more, then silence fell heavy. Bodies sprawled across the lobby, smoke drifting through the holes in the roof. Costa was gone, vanished in the chaos, a snake slipping through cracks. I stayed crouched behind the slot machine, ears ringing, hands shaking. When I dared to look up, the lion was standing over Luca's body, his face carved from stone. He glanced at me, eyes cold, unreadable. "Photographer," he said. "Did you see?" My throat tightened. I raised the camera, lens still aimed at the carnage. I saw everything. His gaze lingered, heavy as a verdict. Then he turned away, barking orders to his men. I sat frozen, camera in my lap, surrounded by blood and neon glow seeping through broken windows. And I realized the truth. I wasn't bait anymore. I was a witness. And in this city, witnesses don't live long. The hotel stank of smoke and blood. Sirens wailed in the distance, but they wouldn't come here. Not tonight. Not with the lion's men still sweeping the halls, dragging bodies, erasing proof. Vegas had rules. Rules written in shadows, enforced in silence. I stood slowly, legs trembling, camera still warm in my grip. Every instinct screamed to run, to vanish, to burn the memory card and pretend none of this had ever happened. But the lion's eyes pinned me like chains. "Come," he said. I followed him through the wreckage. Luca's body lay sprawled near the stairwell, eyes glassy, blood pooling beneath his jacket. The lion didn't look at him. Not once. We stepped outside into the desert air. The neon of the strip flickered faint beyond the horizon. Too far to hear the gunfire, too close to ever forget it. "You understand now," the lion said, lighting a cigar, his hands steady. "This city feeds on betrayal. Family, friends, blood, it doesn't matter. Only loyalty, only strength." I swallowed hard. "And me? Where do I fit in that?" He exhaled smoke, gaze sharp through the haze. "You fit because you see. Your lens captures what others hide. That makes you useful, but it also makes you dangerous." I thought of Luca's last smirk, Costa's promise, the gunfire rattling through my bones. How long before I end up like him? The lion studied me for a long moment. "That depends on the choices you make." He turned to his men, issuing orders in clipped tones. Cars rolled out, bodies loaded, evidence stripped. The hotel would be nothing but a ghost by sunrise. I lowered the camera, staring at the blood on my hands. Not mine, but it felt like it. Each photo burned into my mind. The handshake, the briefcase, the betrayals, the deaths. Proof. Too much proof. When the lion faced me again, his voice was calm, certain. "You're in this now, Reyes, your pride. But pride comes with weight. Can you carry it?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. The camera strap dug into my neck like a noose, every photo on the card another knot tightening. The lion didn't wait. He stepped into his car, door slamming shut, leaving me under the broken hotel's shadow. For the first time since this began, I wondered if the truth I was capturing was worth the price it demanded. And deep down, I knew the answer. The truth was heavier than blood. The next nights blurred together. The lion kept me close, moving me between safe houses, back rooms, and shadowed booths in casinos that never closed. Always watching, always recording. Deals whispered over poker chips, alliances sealed with handshakes that could topple empires. My lens captured it all. But when I closed my eyes, it wasn't the living I saw. It was Luca, his smirk, his blood on cracked tile, his father not looking down. Sleep came in fragments, haunted by gunfire. Even awake, the strip felt different, brighter, harsher. Every light seemed to mock me. Every laugh a reminder that the city's surface was a mask. Beneath it, the bones rattled. One evening, I found myself wandering Fremont Street alone, camera hidden under my jacket. Street performers juggled fire, tourists snapped selfies, drunks stumbled between bars. Normalcy. Almost. Then I spotted him. Costa, across the street, leaning against a black car, dressed casual but still too sharp to blend in. He was alone, or wanted me to think so. His eyes found mine through the crowd, and that smile spread slow and venomous. I froze. Should have turned, run, disappeared into the chaos. Instead, I lifted the camera. Instinct. Click. The sound felt louder than a gunshot. Costa didn't move. He just tilted his head like he'd been expecting me. Then he mouthed two words I couldn't mistake, even from across the street. "Your turn." A truck roared past, blocking my view. When it cleared, he was gone. No car. No Costa. Just tourists and neon. I stumbled back to the mansion, heart clawing at my ribs. When I told the lion, his jaw tightened, eyes dark. "He's testing you," he said. "Snakes strike in silence. But Costa wants you to feel his fangs before they pierce." I wanted to tell him I wasn't built for this, that I was a photographer, not a soldier. But the words died in my throat when I saw the Pride's men cleaning rifles at the table, their silence heavier than any argument. The lion placed a hand on my shoulder, heavy, deliberate. "Stay sharp, Reyes. You're more valuable than you realize. That makes you a target." That night, alone in my room, I stared at the newest photo on my camera. Costa in the crowd, smiling like the devil himself. And I knew the war wasn't coming. It was already here. The mansion was quieter than usual. Too quiet, guards paced the halls, their footsteps heavier, their eyes sharper. Word spread fast. Costa was moving pieces. No one knew where, no one knew how, but everyone felt it. I sat in the study with the lion, my photos spread across his desk. Costa at Solaris, Costa in Fremont, Costa smiling like he owned the city. The lion studied each frame as though the images themselves were weapons. "You've done well," he said finally, cigar smoke curling through the lamplight. "But pictures don't stop bullets." I leaned forward, voice low. "Then why keep me here? Why risk it?" His gaze met mine unflinching. "Because truth matters, even in a city built on lies." The words struck deeper than I expected. Before I could answer, a guard burst through the door, breathless, pale. "Boss." We found another card. He handed it over, black, embossed with the same silver lion crest. My chest tightened. But when the lion flipped it, the back wasn't blank this time. Just two words in bold red ink. "He bleeds." The lion's jaw tightened, but he betrayed nothing else. He dismissed the guard, then set the card down gently between us. "This is Costa," I said. "He wants you rattled." The lion shook his head slowly. "No, this is personal." The room chilled. I thought of Luca, his betrayal, his smirk before the end. Maybe Costa wasn't just taunting the lion. Maybe he was dragging ghosts back into the room. That night, I roamed the mansion's halls, camera slung low, nerves raw. Every shadow looked like a gun barrel, every creak like a trigger pull. Near midnight, I found the lion alone in the chapel at the far end of the estate, candles flickering against stone walls. He knelt before a worn crucifix, cigar unlit in his hand. "You ever kill a man, Reyes?" he asked without looking at me. The question froze me. No. He finally turned, eyes hollow, voice quiet. Then pray you never have to. Photos are clean. Memory cards can be wiped. But blood stays. He rose, straightened his jacket, the mask sliding back into place. The king again. Costa wants to play with venom, he said. Let him. Tomorrow night, we strike first. My chest tightened. Tomorrow. And I realized the war wasn't just in whispers anymore. It was about to spill across the strip in blood and light. The Lions convoy rolled through the desert like a steel beast. Blacked out SUVs, engines low and steady, men armed to the teeth. I sat in the back seat of the lead car, camera bag between my boots, heart pounding against my ribs. We weren't heading for the strip, not tonight. The target was one of Costa's warehouses near the edge of Henderson, an operation disguised as a shipping hub. Weapons, money, men. Break it, and Costa bleeds. The Lion briefed his men in clipped words, calm as always. In fast, out faster. Burn everything that carries his name. When we arrived, the place looked deserted. Rows of metal containers stacked like tombs, floodlights buzzing overhead. But the Lion's men knew better. They moved with precision, surrounding the compound. Stay close, the Lion told me, stepping out. His eyes caught mine, steady. And keep your camera ready. History is written in fire. I swallowed hard and followed. The breach was fast, brutal. Explosives on the side gate, steel doors torn apart. The Pride surged in with rifles raised. Shouts rang out, followed by the crack of gunfire. Costa's men poured from the warehouse like ants from a nest, and the night erupted. I ducked behind a shipping crate, snapping photos between bursts of gunfire. Flashes of frozen truth. A Pride soldier charging forward, muzzle flash lighting his face. Costa's men dragged from cover, the Lion himself striding through chaos, pistol steady, cloak of control unshaken. Then the fire started. One of the Lion's men hurled a Molotov through a side window. Flames roared to life, devouring crates, smoke curling black against the desert sky. Burn it all, someone shouted. Costa's men broke, retreating into the night, some cut down, others fleeing into the sand. The warehouse groaned, metal twisting under heat. The Lion grabbed my shoulder, pulling me close. Get this, Reyes. Every flame, every collapse. I want Costa to see his empire turn to ash. I raised the camera, lens catching the inferno as it swallowed the building whole. The shutter clicked again and again, each frame a death sentence for Costa's pride. By the time we pulled out, the warehouse was nothing but a skeleton in firelight, smoke trailing into the stars. In the SUV, the Lion lit a cigar, exhaling slow. "One strike," he said. "Many more to come." I stared at the photos glowing on my camera screen. Flames, bullets, bodies. Proof of war. And I wondered how long before that war burned me too. Block 17. Smoke and steel. The war wasn't whispers anymore. After the warehouse burned, Vegas felt like a battlefield disguised in neon. Casinos still hummed, tourists still drank, dealers still called bets. But underneath it all, the streets had changed. Eyes lingered too long. Doors stayed locked. Every alley breathed tension. The Lion knew Costa would strike back. He always did. That was the rhythm of this city. Blow for blow until one side stopped breathing. I didn't sleep much those nights. My apartment was gone. The Lion's estate had become my cage. Guards shadowed my every step, sometimes silent, sometimes smirking like they already knew I wouldn't last. I kept the camera close, lens ready, as if photographs could protect me from bullets. Then came the first hit. We were driving down Sahara when it happened. 2 SUVs flanking ours, Lion in the back seat, me beside him, guards in front. The night was calm, strip lights glowing in the distance. Then headlights blazed from the opposite lane. A truck. "Too fast, too close, down!" someone shouted. The crash tore through steel and glass, flipping the SUV like a toy. My world spun, shattered, burned. By the time I crawled free, ears ringing, blood slick on my temple, gunfire already ripped through the night. Costa's men swarmed, masks, rifles, shadows moving with surgical precision. The Lion was on his feet, impossibly steady, barking orders through the chaos. His men returned fire, dropping attackers one by one. I ducked behind the wreck, fumbling for my camera, instinct screaming to capture proof even while bullets screamed overhead. Through the lens, I caught it. Costa's snake emblem painted on the truck's hood. Masked shooters firing with military rhythm. The lion framed in firelight as he stood his ground. It was madness. Beautiful, terrifying madness. One of Costa's men spotted me, raised his rifle. My body froze, until a pride soldier slammed into him, blade flashing, silence quick and final. He looked back at me, eyes hard. "Shoot pictures later. Run now." I couldn't, not yet. The lens dragged me deeper, pulling moments from the fire. The lion reloading with surgical calm, his men dragging wounded into cover, the truck burning behind us like a funeral pyre. Finally, the order came. "Fall back!" We piled into the surviving SUV, tires screaming as we tore through the desert. I looked back through the shattered rear window, flames swallowing the wreckage. My photos felt heavier than ever, proof of Costa's strike, proof that the war was no longer contained. Back at the estate, the lion poured whiskey with blood still on his knuckles. He handed me a glass I couldn't drink. "He wants you shaken," he said. "He wants you running, but you're still here. Good." I set the camera on the table, my hands trembling. "How much longer can this go on?" He looked at me then, eyes dark, voice low, "Until one of us is gone." Outside, Vegas kept shining, as if the strip could blind itself to the blood spilling in its shadow. But I knew better now. The shadows weren't closing in. They'd already swallowed me whole. The attack on Sahara rattled the pride. Even the lion's estate, usually a fortress of calm discipline, felt different now. Guards moved faster, louder. Radios hissed without pause. Every glance carried suspicion, like anyone could be the next Luca hiding a knife in his sleeve. I patched my head wound in the bathroom mirror, hands clumsy, blood crusted along my hairline. The reflection staring back at me looked less like a photographer and more like a survivor who didn't recognize himself. That's when I heard it. A voice outside my door. "Low, urgent." 2 guards whispering. "Costa's paying double? Doesn't matter. The lion's watching everyone." "Then why's the kid still breathing?" "Kid meet me." I froze, breath caught in my chest. They knew I was listening, or maybe they didn't care. The shuffle of boots faded, leaving silence heavier than the words. By the time I stepped into the hall, they were gone. But doubt lingered. How many of the lion's men had already sold pieces of their loyalty to Costa? How long before one of them sold me too? That night, the lion called me to his study. Maps sprawled across the desk, pins marking Costa's holdings. Clubs, warehouses, safe houses. He traced a finger over one, Solaris, where it all began. "He'll move again soon," the lion said. "And when he does, I'll be ready." I couldn't hold it in. "Your men, some of them are talking. They don't trust me. Some don't even trust you." He lit a cigar, the flame briefly illuminating his scars. "Of course they don't. Fear makes men foolish. Gold makes them traitors. Costa offers both. That's why I keep you close, Reyes. Your lens doesn't lie." I wanted to believe him, but the memory of the guard's whispers clung like smoke. Later, wandering the estate, I found a figure alone on the balcony, Isabella, the lion's niece. I hadn't spoken to her much, but she carried herself with the same quiet fire as her uncle. "You shouldn't walk these halls at night," she said softly, eyes on the desert. "Not with what you carry." "You mean the camera?" "I mean the truth." She turned to me, gaze sharp. "Truth gets men killed faster than bullets." For a moment, the noise of the war fell away. Just her, the night air, and the faint glow of Vegas far off. Something in her voice felt like warning. Or maybe it was pity. Before I could ask, headlights flashed at the gates. Engines roared. Guards scrambled. The lion stormed from the study, voice like thunder. "Positions. Costa moves tonight." Chaos erupted. Radios screamed. Rifles were loaded, and in the chaos, I saw Isabella slip a folded note into my pocket, her expression unreadable. I opened it later, alone. 3 words written in a hurried hand. "Trust no one." My chest tightened. Because in this war, even whispers carried venom, and I was already bitten. The estate didn't sleep that night. Engines rumbled in the courtyard. Rifles clattered. Men barked orders like wolves restless before a hunt. I stayed in my room, camera on my lap, Isabella's note burning in my pocket. Trust no one, but how could I not? The lion had cleared my debts, pulled me into his pride, made me valuable. Yet his own blood had betrayed him. Luca's ghost still lingered in every hallway, and now his niece, this quiet shadow of the family, was warning me too. By dawn, the estate calmed. The lion disappeared into his war room, leaving his soldiers to watch the gates. I wandered the balcony where Isabella had stood, the desert stretching endless and cruel. Looking for me? Her voice startled me. She stepped out from behind the stone column, a shawl draped over her shoulders, dark hair falling loose. In daylight she looked softer, but her eyes carried the same fire. I don't know what I'm looking for, I admitted. She studied me for a moment, then leaned against the railing. You're different. My uncle surrounds himself with killers, liars, men who measure worth in blood. But you, she gestured to the camera, you measure it in truth. Truth doesn't stop bullets, I said. No, but it can cut deeper. We spoke quietly, words weaving between silences. She told me about growing up under the lion's shadow, how every birthday, every celebration, carried the weight of legacy. How Luca had been the heir until greed twisted him. How she'd been invisible, overlooked, yet always watching. And now, she said, she feared history was repeating itself. Costa has eyes in this house, she whispered. More than Luca. My uncle won't admit it, but he knows. That's why he keeps you close, because he thinks your lens will catch what his men cannot. I felt the weight of her gaze. And what about you? Whose side are you on? She didn't answer at first. Then she stepped closer, voice dropping. I'm on the side that survives. Before I could ask more, a shout broke the stillness. A guard stormed onto the balcony, radio crackling. Boss needs Reyes, now. Isabella slipped back into the shadows, her expression unreadable. I followed the guard to the war room, heart pounding. The lion stood over a spread of photos. Mine. Costa at Solaris. Costa on Fremont. Costa smiling, snake-like. You've done your part, the lion said. Now it's time to do more. He jabbed a finger at a map. Costa moves his shipments tonight through the canals. I want proof, photos, evidence that will break him with his allies. Alone? I asked, a faint smile. Not alone, with Isabella. My chest tightened. The lion's gaze was final, immovable. And in that moment, I realized my path had shifted again. Not just into the war, but into the heart of the lion's family itself. Isabella, the niece. The secret, the warning, and now, my partner. Night fell heavy, cloaking Vegas in neon and shadow. The canals on the city's edge weren't the tourist rides with gondoliers and champagne. These were storm drains, vast concrete arteries running beneath the strip, carrying secrets instead of water. Isabella and I stood at the mouth of one, headlights of the Pride's SUV fading as it pulled away. She wore black hair tied back, pistol strapped at her hip. I carried only my camera, lens wrapped in cloth to keep the glass from catching stray light. This is where his men move shipments, Isabella whispered, voice steady despite the chill. Cash, weapons, sometimes people. Costa thinks no one's watching. I swallowed, adjusting the strap across my chest. And we're supposed to just walk in? She gave me a sharp look. Not walk, blend, quiet. My uncle trusts your eye. Prove him right. We slipped into the tunnel, our footsteps echoing against damp concrete. The air reeked of oil and rust. Somewhere ahead, voices carried. Faint, foreign, clipped. I crouched, raising the camera. Through the lens, I saw them. Costa's men unloading crates from a van, stacking them in neat rows under the cover of dripping pipes. A foreman barked orders while 2 armed guards scanned the dark. Isabella leaned close, breath brushing my ear. Get the shots, fast! I clicked once, twice. The shutter whispered like a heartbeat, freezing faces, weapons, the snake emblem scrawled across crate lids. Then a flashlight beam swept the tunnel. Go, Isabella hissed, shoving me behind a column. The guard's light cut inches from us, pausing, before swinging back to the crates. My chest burned from holding my breath. We waited, still as stone. Finally, the guard moved on. I risked another shot, closer this time, capturing the handoff of a ledger, pages thick with numbers and names. Proof that Costa's empire was bigger than whispers. Proof the lion could use to crush him. But then, a sound broke the rhythm. A boot scraping behind us. I turned. Another guard stood at the tunnel's mouth, pistol raised, eyes narrowing on me. Before I could speak, Isabella moved. Her gun barked once, the shot muffled by the echo. The guard crumpled, lifeless, blood seeping into the concrete. My hands shook around the camera. She didn't flinch. "Welcome to the war," she said flatly, grabbing my arm. "Now move!" We fled through the canals, shadows chasing us, shouts erupting behind. My photos thumped against my chest, heavier than bullets. By the time we surfaced under the broken glow of a streetlight, I knew two things for certain. The lion had his proof, and Isabella wasn't just his niece. She was his weapon. By the time Isabella and I returned to the estate, dawn was breaking. The desert sky glowed faint pink, the strip's neon fading into exhaustion. My clothes stank of rust and smoke. My camera strap dug raw into my shoulder. The lion was waiting in the courtyard, flanked by guards. His gaze cut straight through me, then softened when it landed on his niece. She gave a single nod. Confirmation. I handed him the camera. His hands, scarred but steady, flicked through the photos. Crates marked with the snake. The ledger exchange. Men's faces caught mid-whisper, and the dead guard Isabella had dropped, blood pooling across concrete. The lion exhaled, slow. "This," he said, "is more than proof. This is declaration." Inside, in the war room, the photos were spread across maps and ledgers, each one a dagger pointed at Costa's empire. Lieutenants leaned close, muttering, arguing, some hungry for blood, others wary of escalation. Isabella stood beside me, arms folded, eyes sharp. She didn't flinch when her uncle raised his voice. Costa hides in shadows, but shadows are not enough. These images will burn through his allies, through the city council, through every coward who still pretends neutrality. He slammed a fist onto the table. No more whispers. From today, this is war. A ripple went through the room. Cheers, fear, resentment. I caught fragments of murmurs. Too soon. The city will drown. Costa will gut us all. I lifted the camera again, almost on instinct, framing the lion in that moment, his fist on the map, his eyes lit with fire, the pride behind him, torn between loyalty and doubt. When the shutter clicked, he turned his gaze on me. "Good," he said. "The city will remember this image when the smoke clears." Later, in the hall, Isabella pulled me aside. Her voice was low, urgent. "You don't understand what you've done. With those photos, my uncle has no choice but to strike. And Costa will answer. The streets will bleed." I shook my head. He said this war was inevitable. She touched my arm, eyes searching mine. "Maybe, but you gave him the spark." Her words sat heavy, heavier than the camera. That night, as trucks loaded weapons in the courtyard and soldiers prepared for the lion's offensive, I sat alone with my photos, flames, faces, proof, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't just recording history, I was starting it. The lion's first strike came fast, too fast for the city to blink. It was midnight on the Strip, crowds thick, casinos alive with light and laughter. No one saw the convoys until they were already there. Black SUVs and armored vans pulling up in front of Costa's crown jewel, the Solaris. I was inside one of the vans, camera clutched in my hands, heart hammering. Isabella sat beside me, pistol steady, her expression unreadable. Across from us, the lion loaded his weapon with the calm precision of a surgeon. "Tonight," he said, voice low but steady, "the city will remember who built these streets." The van doors slammed open. We spilled onto the glittering pavement. The pride moved like a tide, rifles raised, sweeping past screaming tourists. Within seconds, the Solaris's velvet facade shattered under gunfire. Windows exploded, chandeliers inside crashing down in a storm of glass and fire. I stumbled forward, raising my camera. Through the lens, I caught chaos frozen. The lion striding through the broken doors. Costa's men scrambling from cover. The Strip itself transformed into a battlefield. Tourists ran, shrieking, phones raised to record what they didn't understand. Dealers ducked behind tables, cards, and chips, scattering like shrapnel. Smoke rolled through the lobby as the Lions' men set charges on slot machines, flames devouring carpets woven in gold. Costa wasn't there. Not yet, but his soldiers were. Gunfire cracked like thunder. Isabella dragged me behind a marble column as bullets chewed the stone. She fired back, each shot clean, deliberate. Her calm unnerved me more than the violence itself. "Keep shooting," she snapped. "Your lens is our weapon, too," so I did. Each frame carved truth from chaos, faces twisted in rage, Costa's snake emblem flashing on jackets. The lion unshaken in the heart of the storm. Then came the fire. One of the lion's men hurled a grenade into the Solaris bar. The blast ripped the room apart, bottles igniting, flames licking up the walls. The entire club became an inferno, heat so fierce I felt it sear my skin from across the floor. Outside, sirens wailed. Police cars screeched to a halt at the strip's edge, but they didn't advance. Vegas law was clear. When families went to war, uniforms stayed out until the smoke cleared. The lion turned, eyes on me even as fire painted him in gold and red. "Get this," he said. "The city will forget the screams, but they'll remember the fire," I clicked, shudder freezing him in the blaze. King of an inferno. By the time we pulled out, the Solaris was collapsing, flames devouring Costa's empire brick by brick. Back in the van, my chest heaved, lungs full of smoke and fear. Isabella sat beside me, silent. The Solaris still smoldered when Costa struck back. It happened 2 nights later, just as the Lion's estate exhaled with a rare moment of calm. The Pride thought they'd bought themselves time, that the fire on the strip had broken Costa's will. But snakes don't retreat. They coil, they wait, then they strike. I was in the courtyard, camera in hand, snapping the aftermath of the Solaris raid. Scarred rifles, burnt clothes, weary men who looked like ghosts. Isabella was with me, her shawl pulled tight against the desert chill. She said nothing, but her eyes never stopped scanning. That's when the sky lit up. The first explosion tore through the front gates, a thunderclap that ripped iron from stone. The second shattered the east wall, spraying concrete like shrapnel. Sirens screamed from the Pride's radios, men shouting, scrambling for weapons. Costa's army poured in. Dozens of them, armed with rifles, masks, and fury. They came like a flood through the ruins, bullets chewing through the night. I hit the ground, camera clutched tight, crawling behind a fountain as rounds sparked off marble. Through the lens, I caught fragments. Costa's serpent emblem painted on body armor. Pride soldiers falling one by one, the estate itself bleeding under fire. The lion emerged from the mansion, pistol in one hand, cigar still burning in the other. He shouted orders, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Hold the line." Not 1 inch. His men obeyed, returning fire in a storm of noise. But Costa's attack was surgical, merciless. This wasn't a warning. It was extermination. A grenade landed near the fountain. Isabella yanked me back just as it detonated, the blast hurling us into the dirt. My ears rang, vision blurred, camera nearly slipping from my grip. Through smoke, I saw him. Costa. Standing at the breached gates, suit immaculate despite the carnage, eyes blazing with cold satisfaction. He didn't fire a weapon. He didn't need to. His presence alone was a blade. The lion spotted him too. Their gazes locked across the battlefield, smoke and fire between them. Kings in the same cage. Then Costa raised his hand. His soldiers opened fire in unison, driving the Pride back toward the mansion. The courtyard became a slaughterhouse. Isabella pulled me behind a pillar, her voice raw. "We can't stay here, he's tearing through us." But the lion wouldn't move. He stood at the center of the storm, reloading with calm defiance. A king who refused to kneel. I lifted the camera, hands shaking, and captured the moment. 2 empires colliding, bullets and fire sealing their fate. Costa's voice rang out, carried by smoke and fury. "This is my city, old man. Your pride dies tonight." The lion's answer was a single gunshot, fired steady, echoing like a vow. The war had reached its peak. And I was standing in the middle of its fire. The courtyard blazed with fire. Smoke clawed the sky, bullets tore the night apart, and the lion's estate crumbled stone by stone. Men screamed, rifles cracked, bodies fell across marble that once gleamed with pride. And in the middle of it all, two kings finally faced each other. Costa advanced through the breach, serpent crest gleaming on his chest plate, his soldiers fanning out like shadows around him. The lion stood on the mansion steps, jacket gone, sleeves rolled, pistol steady in one hand, cigar burning in the other. The battlefield stilled for a heartbeat, both sides pausing as if the desert itself was holding its breath. "You're finished," Costa called, voice sharp as glass. "Your pride is ashes. Your blood is weak. Vegas belongs to me now." The lion exhaled smoke, unshaken. "Vegas belongs to the strong. And you," he raised his pistol, "are just a snake in my grass." The gunfight erupted like thunder. Costa's soldiers surged forward, pride men answering with a wall of fire. The courtyard became a storm of muzzle flashes, concrete splintering, flames devouring the hedges. I dove behind a fallen statue, camera raised, capturing fragments of chaos. Costa barking orders, the lion firing with surgical precision, Isabella dragging a wounded guard to cover. The two kings moved toward each other, bullets carving the air between. Costa fired with cold fury, each shot meant to kill. The lion advanced through smoke, unyielding, every step defying age, defying fear. I clicked the shutter again and again, framing history as it unfolded, Vegas's fate written in firelight. Then Costa broke the rhythm. He hurled a flashbang, the courtyard exploding in white light. My vision burned, ears ringing. When the haze cleared, Costa was closer, rifle raised, eyes blazing. The lion didn't retreat. He charged. The two collided near the fountain, their guards locked in brutal combat around them. Costa swung his rifle like a blade. The lion countered with his pistol, the clash raw, primal, stripped of empire and soldiers. Just two men, kings in a city too small for both. Costa snarled, driving the lion back against the fountain's rim. Water spilled red as blood. "Your old lion," he hissed. "Your roar is nothing but an echo." The lion's eyes burned with fire I'd never seen before. Echoes last longer than snakes. He slammed his pistol into Costa's jaw, the shot blasting into the night. Costa staggered, bleeding, but not broken. Around them, the battle raged. Screams, fire, steel. Isabella fired beside me, her face a mask of fury and fear. I snapped one last photo through the smoke. The lion and Costa locked in combat. Crowns invisible but heavy, Vegas itself trembling under their weight. This wasn't just war. This was judgment. And only one king would walk away. The courtyard was a graveyard of fire and steel. Bodies sprawled across shattered marble, flames chewed the hedges, and smoke clawed at the sky. But I saw none of it. My lens, my eyes, my entire being were fixed on the two kings locked in their final struggle. Costa's blade flashed in the firelight, a combat knife pulled from his boot. He lunged, fury etched into every line of his face. The lion twisted, the blade grazing his ribs, drawing blood, but not slowing him. The old king struck back with the weight of a lifetime. His fist crashed into Costa's jaw, his pistol whipped across his temple. Costa staggered, but his grin held, blood slick on his teeth. "This city is mine," Costa roared, slashing again. The lion caught his wrist, steel grinding against scarred hands. For a heartbeat, they were statues, two predators frozen in defiance. Then the lion forced the blade down, driving it into Costa's chest. The snake gasped, shock tearing through his eyes. His rifle clattered to the ground. The lion leaned close, voice a growl. "Vegas bows to lions, not snakes." Costa crumpled at the fountain's edge, water running red around him. His soldiers faltered, their will shattering with their king's fall. The pride surged, cutting them down or driving them into the night, and then silence. The lion stood, chest heaving, blood staining his shirt, smoke curling around him like a crown. For the first time I saw the cost of his reign. His hands trembled. His eyes, though fierce, carried the weight of ghosts. I raised the camera, capturing the moment, the lion victorious but scarred, alone on the throne he'd fought to keep. Isabella rushed to his side, slipping an arm under him as his strength faltered. "Uncle," she whispered, voice breaking. It's over. He shook his head faintly. No, it never ends. The city always wants more blood. His gaze shifted to me, pinning me even through the haze of smoke. Reyes, you saw it all. Don't let them forget. I swallowed hard, the camera strap biting into my neck. I won't. His hand gripped mine, strong despite the blood. Then you carry the pride now, in truth. In memory. By dawn, Costa's men were gone, the estate scarred but standing. The lion's body lay in the chapel, candles flickering beside him. Isabella stood tall before the pride, her voice steady as she took her place in the shadow of her uncle. And me? I walked the strip as the sun rose, camera heavy against my chest, memory card full of ghosts. Tourists shuffled past, chasing luck, blind to the war fought beneath their feet. I lifted the lens one last time, capturing the city in its cruel beauty. Neon lights dimming against the morning sky, streets washed clean though they still reeked of blood. The lion was gone. The snake was dead, but Vegas lived on, and in my photos, so did the truth.